Will Ranić see out the season?
Oh, yes, I think so. I think people do things on the basis of their reputation. He can't now walk away from the last 5 games of the season.
But why not? What's the point of hanging about?
But what would be the point of walking away? I mean, he took the job in good faith. He hasn't done the greatest of jobs, but I also think the adversity and the challenges that he's got inside that dressing room and around that football club have exceeded most people's abilities. I think there's a real challenge there. It needs to be broken up. Some significant changes need to be made. You know, the most competitive thing about that match yesterday was who could say the most disparaging things between Roy Keane, Graham Souness and Gary Neville. That was the most competitive thing in that match because it was men against boys. It was heavyweights against lightweights. Liverpool were in their pomp. I don't even think Liverpool were as good as they were against Man City. They didn't need to be against Man United because Man United weren't even a spent force. They were just not there. They were just a gust of wind in terms of the amount of input they made into that particular game. Yes, they had 15 minutes in the second half where Liverpool eased off and almost felt sorry for them and to some extent got distracted by whatever else was going on inside the stadium. And once they regained their poise, back again did United get put to the sword. You look at the observations. I thought Gary Neville's observations during the game on the on-pitch stuff was absolutely on the money. I thought it was so insightful and also so blunt and honest. And Souness and Keane, people don't like people being criticised. It seems to be a one-way transaction in sport. You can only praise. You have to get the balance right. But it's very difficult to look at that Man United side, from the coach down to the players on the pitch, from picking Phil Jones in a formation that he's not overly comfortable and hasn't played in for some time and isn't up to speed in, is probably not the ideal coaching methodology, through to the players' performance on the pitch, their inability to close space or want to seem to compete with Liverpool, are just inexplainable. And then you've got the Roy Keanes of the world, not disappearing into pantomime villain status, but going after individuals and saying, he went after Maguire. And he's right to do it, because these people are, in my view, the only expression they didn't use is these players are cheating the fans that go and watch them. They're cheating the club, whether people don't like the Glazers and whether Gary Neville wants to come on and make some ridiculous assertion that people taking £25 million worth of dividends is the reason why that shower on the pitch aren't competing.
But cheating's strong, Simon. I mean, it's an inflammatory word.
Well, it is.
Are you saying they're cheating their own club?
Well, I think they are, because this is about one thing you can always do is apply yourself. If you're not good enough as a unit, not good enough as a team, and the opposition against you is better, you will always lay something on them. The only kid that laid something on them was Hannibal when he came on. Never was there a more fitting name.
Yeah.
He came on and put it about.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Gary Neville was right to talk about the fact that, okay, he was running around trying to put his foot into people, and perhaps we don't want to see some of that. But at least there was some competitive spirit, there's some pride in playing for a football club. And you look at them from Rashford all the way back, there was not enough about them. They didn't compete. And I don't know what other word you can use. If you're being paid to do something and you're not doing it week in, week out, and you've got people schlepping across the country to see you play, then you are cheating something from
Well,
people.
this is going to be the mother of all player culls at Manchester United, is it, at the end of the season?
I think it needs to be. I think it absolutely needs to be. I think Ranić's interview after the game was very easy to do, because you're looking at the bleeding obvious. You can't turn it into something else. If it walks like a duck and it talks like it's a duck, it's a duck. You have to turn around and say that's not good enough.
Are they 6 years behind? That's what he said there.
No, I don't know if that's right. I think one thing that Gary Neville said about the off-pitch stuff that I agreed with was that, as the world is round and United will come again. They absolutely will do. And I don't think we're going to see a situation where for 30 years they do what Liverpool did, which was not win the Premier League. I think they're going to have to go through 3, 4, 5 transfer windows to be able to cull, clear, clean and rebuild. Now, whether Ten Hag has got the chops to do it, and more importantly, whether they've got because they're feeble-minded in that club. They're an elite football club with an iconic outlook in terms of their achievements in the past, but the past is something that has now gone.
Yeah.
Their feeble-minded approach from the boardroom to the dugout is not going to change.